The keynote I want to discuss with the people present is about forest products and how a sustainable future will be able to cope with the European framework of the Green Deal and how to deal with it. And I give you some incentive elements that would probably give you some thought or thinking in the future how to deal with research and view of this Green Deal. One of the concerns we have worldwide is that we are now approximately using 3.5 billion cubic meters, but there are some people saying we will use something like 10 billion cubic meters by the year 2050. It's probably a little bit exaggerated, but might be true, especially when you look at we're using now something like 0.6 cubic meters per person per year, and we will probably move to 2 cubic meters for something like a population growth that's going beyond 10 billion people in the future. And I'm not even talking about sustainable based use of renewable resources as I'm saying these things. So we have some critical elements in the future. So what is now coming up in Europe as being part of the story for to work with is one is the Green Deal. Not that people are talking a lot on forests, but definitely forest products and green building will be part of that story. And another probably even more important one for forestry is the climate pact that we are trying to create, not only on food, but definitely also on wood products will be definitely. We surely are linking into this volume we need, but also on the quality of products we need. Some triggers, one is the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. Definitely we are going towards more of bioeconomy, and bioeconomy without forest products is probably useless to talk about. And we're going to combine this bioeconomy with things like the green economy, where we are trying to produce stuff that is based on not just the processing part, but definitely on how to produce elements, but also on circular economy. And we all think that the forestry and that the wood sector is eminent, is fantastic in this. But we still have to prove this and still have to improve it. And one of the things we've been doing since very long is trying to integrate our different aspects of using a tree towards different products. And although some of my colleagues might be very much in favor of cutting trees, chipping them and burning them to get energy out, I'm also still in favor, and probably more in favor, of using them for planks and construction and using them for as good as possible, even if they're fast grown and even if they are something like a hybrid poplar, which in some countries is definitely not considered as a high quality tree species. And we are actually working, as this is an FAO, it's a Food and Agriculture Organization, subdividing the world of forests and focusing on planted forests and on production sites. And actually primary forests are definitely not to be increased a lot on production, and probably trees outside of the forests are a lot more difficult only when agriculture is involved, but actually in the middle where we're talking about productive systems, and that could be plantations, but also could be planted forest or otherwise produced forests that are in a production system. We have to focus on this definitely for our wood chain. And I just give you two examples of countries. They're not just the only ones, but there are major options. And in Brazil, we see a lot of eucalypts and pines that are not necessarily dominating for the higher end products, but definitely for pulp and paper. And in China, we do a lot of poplar that is used as a shelter belt for defense or helping to combat desertification. These are probably not the best examples, but they show that there are different ways of approaching plantations, planted forests, that can contribute to the volume of wood we are having in the future. Now, facing hybrid poplar cultivation, which is one which is dear to my heart, and I definitely want to promote some of it, we have approximately 1 million hectares in Europe and close to 8 or even over 8 million hectares in China and other parts also. This is a system of producing wood, let's call it high speed, very organized, very much like agriculture. And you can be against or pro, but this is part of the story of producing extra resources in the future. Now, we've been organized, and this is an international poplar commission that are also focusing on other fast growing, mainly focusing on hardwoods, trying to get agriculture production systems to be far more established in the production of wood. Next slide. And there's actually also a European organization, really an industrial organization, that is trying to get this material as much as possible produced to getting new, higher end products also on the market. This is one of the main concerns. And actually, I just give it with some pictures. We can produce wood and we can actually allow people to use it only for energy. And that, as thus, we will definitely sort out some of the CO2 issues by not using oil, but using biomass. On the other hand, using wood as a material, as a substitute for high energy requiring other products is an option that we have been using since long, and probably we have to invest more in high-end products, even from high-rate production systems like POPLAR. So yes, and we are looking for, I mean, somebody might think, oh, this guy is trying to overrule the softwood production systems in Europe. I'm not. I'm only looking for complementary wood resources. But I do definitely want to look at green building, and not only softwoods are suitable for that. And definitely, colleagues like Holger, but also other colleagues have been working on several species to increase service life, both with wood preservation, wood modification, and this will be part of the story also. So high value material use as an alternative for energy. So definitely the traditional POPLAR products from packaging, chipping for energy, but also from the typical plywood probably, we can move to anything that is called engineered wood products in the future. And we've done that, and especially, and I'll show you some examples just hereafter. It could be CLT, but also LVL, but definitely also L-joist, and these things could be using this resource to a certain extent. And some are already very eminent in North American, and we're referring to not necessarily poplar, but to aspen. We do have laminated veneer lumber and I-joist and OSB products. But also in Europe, we have larger productions of plywood, not only for construction, definitely not, also for packaging, but also some producers of OSB already have been focusing on poplar as such, and these companies are eminent. And I want to stress with this to the young researchers, it's not just about an idea. You have to get in touch with the industry and discuss with the industry whether it's feasible to do these products and how to deal with that in future. And also ideas of some of the colleagues in North America, in Oregon State University, they have been testing poplar, hybrid poplar or CLT already some 10 years ago. And I wanted to use one of the last slides just to explicitly say that this is actually very close to the agriculture. We are in selection and breeding. That means that we are producing clonal hybrid systems that are produced at large scale, but we are trying to define the properties. And here we're using CT scanning, but also different other scanning techniques and analyzing methods to use the structure and the composition of the material and try to define that already in the crossings and the selection of new poplar hybrids. I think this is part of the future, not the future, but one of the elements for having a full control to some extent of the forestry wood chain. It's one where I try to compile and give you some food for thought. We have a forestry wood chain with some strengths, some weaknesses, and some opportunities or threats. And actually the strength is sustainability. I mean, we are sustainable producers and we can sustainable. We are weakness, we should actually have 2 or 3 times earth for producing wood. We don't have that. And the opportunity, all we have been looking at is the bioeconomy, new products, new possibilities, everything. But it could also be a threat. If it is the bioeconomy of the energy, I'm probably not so pro on that. Okay, this should be the last slide. Food for thought.